Absolutely. Welcome everybody. Great to see so many people online for the second session, as Chris has just pointed out. I'm going to just try and share my screen with you, and just need to switch that over to that one there. And before I do that, I should introduce a couple of people who are going to give us a hand, especially Dougal Mcconnell from Tassie, the Vice Principal of Drumming down there. Dougal is standing by with watching for questions. So if you've got any questions during the session at any time, while the presentation's going, feel free to type them into the chat window. Dougal will be watching for those, and he'll feed them into the conversation. And we've also got a bass and tenor specialist, one from each camp. So Peter Moyer from Warrnambool, Victoria. Hi Pete, thanks for coming along.
Pleasure, mate.
Yeah, and also Jenna Trainer, also from Victoria. Hi Jen, thanks for coming along. Yeah, so Jen will field any tenor related things that I want to bring in, and same with Peter for bass. And that's it. So yeah, so let's get started. It's a fairly short, succinct session, 40 minutes or so, and hopefully a bit of time for Q&A at the end if anyone's got any questions. All right. So yeah, sharing screen. And let's go with that one. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. And just share that one firstly and hit present. Hopefully you can see that okay.
Yep, all good, Dino.
Yeah, great. Excellent. And I might just get my notes to pop up as well. I can bring that across here. Bear with me, guys. There we go. Yeah, so essentially, right across the bottom there, I've got drum scores played from the grassroots level, and really that's the topic really for today. It's about how our drum scores are constructed from the grassroots. So once we've worked out how to hold the sticks, and we've got our sound, and we've done our tuning, and we're on the road and playing, and we've got a few rudiments playing, we've got one or two tunes running, it's good to go back and revise the execution and the clarity of the sound of rudiments. And so this session is really to give you some ways to do that, to take those rudiments and look at the rudiments and tease them apart and look at ways to improve those. So the things, generally speaking, we will be covering the definition of rudiments. What are rudiments? The context with time. So how do we fit those rudiments into the timing that we're playing along with? And if we get time at the end, we might look at building up a small drum salute with some rudiments. So, but the main part is the first two. So rudiment definition and context of time. So, all right. So yeah, there's our definition. Percussion music. Rudiment is one of a number of relatively small patterns which form the foundation for more extended and complex patterns. The term rudiment in this context means not only basic, but also fundamental. And that's according to Wikipedia, and I think it's pretty much sums it up for us, I think, quite well. So I want you to just have a little think about what you know as to be a rudiment. Actually, any examples? And I guess, Chris, is it possible for people to, maybe we can type them in? Maybe that's the best way. Type in any examples of rudiments that you can think of, and Dougal might be able to shout them out to us.
Got a couple coming in, Dino. We've got single strokes from Steve, paradiddles from Andy, triplets from Angela.
Great.
I'll pose the philosophical question: is a single stroke a rudiment, or is it something that makes up part of a rudiment? But maybe it's a bottle of wine style question.
Very good, very good. Yeah, absolutely. It's a set of single strokes could be classed as a rudiment. I don't know. Let's say it does at this point. For this conversation, I think we could say that a single stroke is a rudiment, and a tap is a rudiment, and a buzz is also a rudiment. Yeah. But the next one's coming along there, paradiddle, triplet. These are the kind of open rudiments, you could call them, and they're created by playing single strokes at a slow tempo. A paradiddle is really just 4 single strokes, isn't it? Tap, 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 tap. Okay. Yeah. So, and that paradiddle, those 4 strokes are known as one rudiment in itself. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And really, it's about automating those single strokes into that sequence, so that then when you just think paradiddle, you play a paradiddle. Yeah, good. Any more there, Dukes?
We have flourishing from Catherine, which is a very interesting prospect.
Well, yeah, flourishing has got is made up of basic components. I don't know all of the names for them, but I think maybe Jenna might be able to give us a couple of names for those.
Yeah, so we've got flourishes for singles, for doubles, for paradiddles, for pianos, for flams going up into a double up. So we do have those equivalent flourishes for some of those, predominantly snare drumming terminology and names. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks, Jen. So and also just one outside reverse spin could be actually a rudiment, I guess, right, in flourishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So really, yeah, it's it's like, with the Lego, it's the little blocks that we're building our castle with. Yeah. And building our tune with. So yeah. So. Oh, yep. Oh, I can see them on my screen now. So flams and drags. Yep. So flams and drags. Yep, absolutely. And rolls, 5-stroke roll, 13-stroke roll. Okay. Absolutely. So you get the idea. These basic components that would create our scores. So good. Now moving forward, I've prepared a checklist for the 12 primary rudiments, and the first 4 of those for all instruments actually. there's a certain limitation on bass and tenor for the high-speed doubles, but certainly accelerating singles. So accelerating singles really, I mean, it's written in 6/4 time, and it's written like if you were to play that literally, to be 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 E and a. But in actual fact, when we practice that and develop that first line, we would develop that just organically and log in a smooth fashion. So the tempo is just getting gradually faster. So all instruments, bass, tenor, snare, should all be able to get to this about that speed, a little faster. About this speed would probably be a roll on a bass, I reckon. Pete, would you say a bit faster? You're on mute, are you? Yeah. Just click your mute button there.
It's actually a very good point there, Dean, that yeah, certainly on the bass you don't need probably the speed of hand that some may consider, just because of the large surface area and the large vibration. But yeah, in that ballpark, that's getting very close to a roll.
Yeah, so because this, as Pete says, the skin's so big, there's a lot of movement. So doesn't take much to create a rumble, right? So probably in around there. Tenor, a little faster. Possibly at the speed of for snare drummers. Snare drummers, 30-second note, demi-semi-quaver single runs. So that's the first rudiment. And these first two rudiments, actually, the accelerating singles and accelerating doubles, first on the list because they take the longest to develop. So accelerating doubles start really slow, and they start as just single taps. Actually, they're not really doubles. Well, I consider them doubles when they get a little bit faster and more bouncy. So the mummy daddy roll, also known as, yeah. So first two rudiments, and if anybody's teaching, these are a very good place to start. Probably for all three instruments, the first one probably to that speed for bass and tenor, and for snare a little faster. For the doubles, probably wouldn't need to go much faster with bass and tenor on those, I think. So that's the first two, accelerating singles, accelerating doubles. Then we've got triplet attack or tickety tap, and this is very common, commonly used in simple time marches, which are the first sort of marches that we learn as learners, starting on the right hand and then starting on the left hand. Okay, so yeah, the speed of that really at this rudimental level should be played very, very slowly. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, but essentially, I like the model that the Swiss, or the way that the Swiss I've seen is very strong in Switzerland. When they practice their rudiments, they really start super slow at single strokes. So, for example, that triplet a tap or tickety tap would be 4 single taps. And they would really look at the strokes, those 4 strokes, to make sure that all 4 of those strokes are really clean and singular sounding. That's where they would start, at that speed. And I recommend it. It's an excellent thing to do with beginners. Until it gets up to speed. And the same with the left hand, really slow. So that you can very clearly see the content and and feel each of those 4 notes. It is a different feel to playing the 4 single taps compared to the faster tickety tap. And that's the full range of feeling that we really should be addressing as drummers, to have a full capability. Okay. So, all right. The next one, number 4, paradiddle. So swing paradiddle. Of course, you can play a straight paradiddle, which is paradiddle tap. So that's two side by side, which is where the word para comes from. So side by side, and then a diddle, which is a drumming term, and then left tap. So, and if we swing that, we put that into a 1/3 pulse, 2/3, 1/3 pulse, 1/6 pulse gap spacing, which we covered off on the last workshop. So if you saw that, you'll understand what I'm talking about there. So that line 4A, paradiddle tap, could be started as well very, very slowly. Paradiddle tap, really slow. And then build that up. Okay, and same the left hand. Okay, so so there we go. They're the first four rudiments that we want to cover off. And now the next 4 or next 3, single 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And left hand. Okay, and there's certain techniques that are involved to execute those with efficiency, with maximum efficiency, and those techniques can be either taught or they can be experienced over time. A lot of players don't get lessons, and they just get into it, and it eventually it becomes efficient over lots of hours of practice. So 2 different ways there, and both could be used. You could have a teacher and ideally do lots of practice. So that's it. So yeah, single 5. Next one is the flam. The next 2 actually, flams and drags. So these are the 2 embellishment rudiments, like our our grace notes in drumming, if you will. The previous ones that we've done are all the open rudiments. Now we've got the 2 embellishments. So 8 flams, or 16 flams right hand, and so on. 16 of those, 16 on the left. Okay, and then drags, same thing, nice and soft. Same left hand, not too fast. Okay, a lot of I see a lot of kids see that and they'll go, oh, drag, and they'll make a mess of it. Yeah, so just pull them back. Even for yourself, yeah, just take your time with that. Okay, good. And finally, the last 5 are the most common rolls that we use. Okay, so the 5-stroke roll, buzz, tap. 7, buzz, tap. 9, buzz, tap. 13, buzz, tap. And 25, introduction roll, tap. And with those last two, I like to use the term, the words hickory dickory dock, just to keep that all open and smooth. So those last ones really probably not that helpful to bass and tenor. Actually, not helpful really at all. But the first 7 would be. And I just want to come back to the drag. And Pete, we were talking about this one on the bass drum, and maybe you could give us a little insight into the drag on bass.
Yes, Dean, it's something that I suppose in our discussion was actually we're talking about the deadbeat. So there's quite a few different ways of actually playing it, but I suppose first it's something that obviously with a lot of good people I've spent time with is obviously with the bass, less is more. So deadbeats can be a wonderful addition, probably especially I find either in a medley score or maybe in a Strasbourg. But and then as far as playing it, there's obviously not necessarily any rules exactly how you go about it, but I tend to find the most accurate way of playing it is a bit more, say, like a reverse drag, in that me being very dominant on my right side, I would tend to play the deadbeat. I'll actually, just before it's played, place my left hand on the centre of the drum, and then actually virtually play a beat with my right, and it'll either be a beat that is a clean beat that comes onto the drum and off, or if you're wanting that real big woof or woof, then it'll actually totally kill that sound, and then you get that percussive effect.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah. So do I get that right? That you're saying you would play the first stroke and then place the dead stroke onto the drum after the first stroke?
With the opposite. So basically, I'll put my left hand onto the drum, like place it on the skin, so that's actually going to kill the sound initially.
Mm-hmm.
I find you just get it's probably a funny word to say, a cleaner deadbeat, but yeah. Rather than actually play both sticks in together, you potentially, just for accuracy's sake, you'll probably more get a sound coming in two at once rather than one on and then either a bounce beat or just a straight deadbeat into the drum with my right hand.
A second deadbeat, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
So you're sort of doing the buzzy part of a drag with both hands compared to a snare drummer that would do it with just the first tap going down. Does that sound right, Pete?
Yeah, along those lines. So really my left hand is really, it's not going to make a sound. It's basically just coming in to muffle the sound of the drums. So the actual deadbeat is still the beat played by my right, but the left hand just coming in onto the drum to basically so the sound's killed straight away with whatever I do with my right hand.
Cool. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, that's great. So, all right. One thing just that came through my mind there what you were saying there, Pete, it actually makes physical sense that not both hit together. It's exactly the same with snare drumming and tenor. You don't want to hit both sticks down at the same time. You lose the effect of that nice open grace note flam. So, all right, good. So far, part 1, we've covered the definition of the rudiment, for some examples for bass, tenor, and snare, the 12 primary rudiments. So, at this stage, we've got any questions? I think everything's probably fairly clear, but somebody might have something. And you can ask questions at the end as well. That's okay.
Dino, we do have a question coming through. Mm-hmm. A question from Terry, is there any chance that Peter could sometime in the future just show us a quick video of what he was just talking about, please? So that's in relation to the dead beats on the bass drum.
Yep. Yeah, Pete, you happy to do a video?
Pleasure.
Yeah, great stuff. All right. So what I'll do, Terry, just contact me. I'll put my contact details at the end, and I'll hook you through to Pete. All right. Okay, good stuff.
We might be able to just stick that little video next to the link of this particular recording on the website, Chris, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I think that that's just going to add to the resources and the sharing of this knowledge and skills. So, Pete, once it's done, we'll make you a star as well on the website.
Makeup.
Good stuff. All right. So, so moving on, we're going to have a look at the rudimental context with time, and we're going to now look at see where these the placement of these of our rudiments needs to be. So we're going to look at beat subdivision, the why and how to unlock your rudiments, and some counting in simple time. So the first thing I want to have a look at is this this little chart of one beat that has been divided up into ultimately 8 notes at the bottom. So right at the bottom, we've got, if you look at the last line, you've got eight notes per beat, and that's how they would look in a simple time drum score. Okay, and does my pointer appear on?
Yes, all good.
Okay, that's great. All right, so the only thing is, does that block? Can you see the last line? Dougal?
Yes, we can now.
Oh, when it's moved. Okay, I got it. All right, so I shouldn't move the... Okay, I won't use the pointer. All right, so the very last line, yep, that's 8. And then working our way back, we're just basically dividing the beat up into 7 portions or 6 portions, or 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So working now from the top down, looking at the very top line, we've got the cyclic view of one beat, and the beat will occur at the very top. And if you could imagine time running around like a clock, from 12 o'clock, around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, back to 12 is your next beat. And when we stretch that out to linear view, that's how long that would be, represented on this particular screen. And then we represent that in musical notation with 2 crotchets. So a crotchet, the first crotchet will tell us how long we need to wait until we play the second crotchet. Okay. These are regular groups, and they're used a lot. Okay, especially bass, tenor, and definitely with snare as well. All right, so second line, you'll see the number of beats we've got divided up into 2. So now we've got our pulses, so the beat is divided into 2. So if we play line 1, line 2 would be double time that. Okay, and the exact notation that's written on the screen would just be 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's a regular group type and used also very high. And quite often, just generally speaking, often is the case that bass would play just the beats and tenor would play just pulses as a kind of starting point for maybe for a drum score. And there's a whole other discussion. Back in the old days, it used to be only that. But anyway, but there we go. So we've got beat and pulse. Pulse is the second line, which is divided into 2. Dividing the beat into 3 would be like a jig. But in simple time, it's an irregular grouping because it's not regular. And we don't usually use that in 2/4 marches or any simple time march. So again, going from the top, line 1, line 2, line 3. So it doesn't really fit what it is we're trying to do in simple time marches. Would fit perfectly in compound time, especially jigs. But that's another discussion, just to keep it straightforward and simple to understand this concept. Just staying in simple time. Good. And then number 4, we've divided into four beats, so 4 pulses, 4 notes. So from the top, line 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'll do that again. 1, 2, 1. Sorry, again. 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, D, 2, D, 1, E, and 2, E, and yep. All right, and so on. 5 would just be dividing to 5. 6 is very commonly used, especially with pointed tunes. 1 a D, 2 a D, 1 a D, and a D, 2 a D, and a D. That kind of feel, that triplet feel, would be used a lot in simple time marches. That timing. Okay. 7 is irregular grouping, again in simple time, not usually used. And then line 8 is used quite a lot with snares. That'll be our single runs. All right, so there we go. So that's our beat subdivision, and we need to know, really need to understand that we can divide the beat up to fit our rudiments in there. Okay, for example, a 13-stroke roll, really we don't need to divide the beat up. That would just be played on at line 1. So for snare drummers, a 13-stroke roll, hickory dickory dock, that would just be from one beat to the next beat. Okay, and very important for the time that you definitely start the roll on the beat and finish right on the next beat, and it doesn't go over or short. Okay. Now, if we were to play a 7-stroke roll, line 2, that would be basically this one. Now, I'm just going to move my mouse off there. It's a bit distracting. So that would be 13-stroke roll for beat to beat, and then a 7-stroke roll from pulse to pulse, if that makes sense. Okay, and then our little 5-stroke roll would be probably fitting into the division of 4. So okay, little short 5-stroke rolls to fit in there with that same tempo, same beat. Okay, so the tempo is not changing, that's fixed. The division of the beat is what we're playing with, and that's what creates our rhythms and our variation. Okay, so when we get down to that, we can now start looking at, are we going to put flams maybe on those 4 notes in the beat division? So flat, 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 flat. So if I was to play flams, line 1, 2, and 4, it would go flam, 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 flam. Okay. And that's the placement of those, and so on. So basically, we know where our positions should be in whatever tune it is we're playing. So that now comes to, okay, well, how do I fit my rudiments to the tune that's being played? And very often the 2/4 marches, I'll pick on 2/4 marches, they're quite common, and 2/4, 3/4, 4/4 pointed simple time marches. If that's the tempo or the beat and pulse, then we've got this shuffle or swing feel. And that's based on the division of 6. Okay. All right. And so let me just show you now something that's quite, I wanted to try and share this screen with you on the phone. I might even be able to do it with my iPad, which is slightly bigger. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So I don't know if I showed you this metronome the last time. Let me just hit. Let's get that started. Okay. So we've got a metronome set up here at 60 BPM, and that's just playing line 1 at the moment. All right. Now, if I divide up that beat into 2, now we've got our second line. Divide into 3. Divide into 4. 5. That's totally irregular feel, isn't it? 6. That's our hickory dickory dock. And if I take out this one and this one, that's our 2/4, 4/4, simple time march swing feel, pointed feel. All right, so back to our 6 and our 7. Another irregular one. And now to 8. All right. So the beat subdivision is basically where it's all about when we play our rudiments. So back to the screen. I'd like to now get your drumsticks out. Time to play. Do a bit of playing. I hope you've all got drumsticks. If you don't have drumsticks, you can play on the table. And Dougal, you're muted. You're saying something there.
Sorry, can I just jump in for a second?
Yeah.
If people have got, firstly, I'll get you to just read out the name of that metronome app so I can put it in the chat field for everybody, please.
Yep, absolutely. It's called Tempo Advanced.
Tempo Advanced.
Yep. And
Thank
I'll
you.
do a little screenshot of the icon, and we'll put that on the show notes. Yeah.
Cool. So that's in the chat box for everybody now. But also one good thing for mainly snare drummers, I guess, with setting up a digital metronome like that, where you can say make a group of 6 with what basically sounds like an accent on the first one, is if you're playing along with single taps like that, often when people are playing single taps and then adding an accent, it sometimes loses the timing of whatever comes immediately after the accent. It's like, I'm going to hit this one a little bit louder, and sometimes they get a little bit wobbly on the spacing of the taps straight after that. So that's actually a really good exercise to get a metronome like that and put it on where it goes tucka ticka 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 tucka ticka 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 tuck, and make sure that all the notes that are after the accent are actually spot on in time with the metronome. It's a very good sort of control exercise to do.
Absolutely. And to add to that process, to play whatever it is you're playing, and then slow the tempo down, keeping the same beat subdivision. Yeah, and to keep with it.
Spot on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, good. Thanks, Dougal. Okay, got our sticks. let's have a look at this page. All right. So so this is from the preliminary syllabus from structured learning, and we might as well do it with a metronome. Now, I'm just going to set it to the beat, so 1 click per beat. Hopefully that's not too loud. Maybe I need to turn it down a bit. Okay, so from the top, without playing it, just to go through the text, if we can read that together. So here we go. Ready? 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 1 and a 2 and a 1 e and a 2 and 1, 2 and a 1 a d and a 2. Okay. Now, we might just take this phrase by phrase. So the first 2 bars, that would be 1, 2, 1 and 2. Again, 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 1 and 2. And 1, 2, 3, go. All right. Now phrase 2, which is bars 3 and 4, starting on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And you'll see there's a 1 on the rest. So it's important still to say the 1, just don't play it. Yeah, so to give you the time space. All right. Line 2 is 1 and a 2 and a 1 e and a 2 and 1. And you'll see I went to the last phrase, finishing there because it had enough notes there to keep going. So it was a good point to stop. All right, same again with phrase 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 1 e and a 2 and 1. All right. Now, the tricky one, phrase 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and a 1 a d and a 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and a 1 a d and a 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2 and a 1 a d and a 2. All right. Now I just want to go into that triplet that's in amongst there. You'll probably agree that it feels a bit strange, and it's the one sort of odd thing out there. Even though a triplet is quite often played, the reason why it feels odd is because the rest of the environment is played in subdivision 4. Okay, so it's 1e and 2e and so let's just slow that down. And by slowing it down is going to give us a bit of and I might actually add a subdivision of 2. So just playing in bar 4, just playing the first 4 notes. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Now if we add on the next 2 notes, the whole of bar 8 goes like this. Okay, so we play that bar 7 and 8 together, that whole phrase, and 1, 2. Again. And again. All right. So you'll it's a very good little sequence, and it's a great little test to get you to really feel that switch between breaking down the subdivisions, switching between subdivision of, actually it's subdivision of 6 back to 4, between 4, 6 and 4 again. Okay. All right. So let's yeah, any questions? That all good? Yeah. We can go on to the second example. I see time's as always cutting short. So let's move on. So the second one now. So just by saying this first, and 1, 2, 3, go. 1 and 2 E and 1 E D 2. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 E and 2 E and 1 and 2. Let's play it. 1, 2, 3, go. 1 and 2 E and 1 E D 2. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 E and 2 E and 1 and 2. Now, if you had trouble with that, you could slow it down a little, just keep running it till you feel confident with it. There is a process that goes on if it's new to you in your brain, and that is, reading, understanding what's required, and then keeping track of where time is, and then playing the note with clean execution. A lot of things going on. So by slowing it down, it just gives your brain a little bit of a chance to get everything all sequenced up. Okay. So very important to slow things down. And then of course we can speed that up. So for those game, let's go for 60 BPM. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 E and 1 E D 2. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. 1 and 2 and 1. 1 E and 2 E and 1 and 2. All right, of course, we'd play that twice with the repeat sign. Now, if you really game, we can go up to 80. Here we go. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 E and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 E and 2 E and 1 and 2. And if you can do that while you're tapping your foot, even better. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 E and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 E and 1 E and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 E and 2 E and 1 and 2. Okay. So that's one of the things actually that's needed for getting your preliminary certificate, to be able to play that, not quite as at 80, but 70. Still a bit of a challenge, but fast enough to be challenging. Now that we've seen those two examples, we've now seen single notes. We've seen two notes. We've seen fours, groups of fours. We've seen triplets in both quaver triplet and semi-quaver triplet form in both of those sequences. And the next step would be to take whichever rudiment it is that you're wanting to work on, would be to then start replacing some of those groupings with some of the rudiments. Like, for example, putting a 7-stroke roll for snare drummers, 7-stroke roll on the first two notes. So, and we could put a flam on the last two notes of that phrase. We're going to put flam on the second beat of bar 1. Or 4 flams in bar 2. So you can work with those timing sequences and putting rudiments over the top of that. Once you've matched some rudiments into the sequences, you could then play it to the metronome and slow the metronome right down. So, for example, that exact sequence I just played there, we could slow that right down to, say, 40 BPM. So 1, 2. for example, to really test our timing. So what is all this for? Okay, so it's very important to be able to unlock your rudiments from a set tempo. And a lot of people have their little rudiment, whatever it is, might be a 5-stroke roll, and you've been practicing your 5-stroke roll or your paradiddle, and you're used to that speed for that paradiddle. And then you come to a tune like a slow march, it's not going to work, right? So that paradiddle needs to be, or right back down to the tempo of the tune that's being played. So stretching the time or speeding up the time of those rudiments, the relative time for those rudiments is absolutely necessary to be able to do. So that's where using a metronome is helpful. The final goal is to not play with a metronome and be emulating a very clear tempo fairly strictly to the metronome initially. And yeah, that's it. So unlocking rudiments, that's what that really means, is unlocking the rudiments from the set speed that you're used to playing them. And yeah, that's that point. Flam and drag rudiments, other than flam and drag rudiments, all rudiments are linked to the speed of the phrase. So flams and drags have always got that same gap, yeah, between the two notes, whether it's a slow march or a jig or whatever. It's going to be initially it's going to be that same gap for flam and drag. Okay, and yep, fill the time space from start to finish of the rudiment. So fill it out. Something that Dougal was mentioning to me, that he was taught by Harold Gillespie at one point, and from the Victoria Police Pipe Band, and said to fill out your single 5, for example. So if you've got a single 5, you might need a tight one. In a 6/8 march, sometimes you need open ones, sometimes you need tight ones. So there's time is really, it's the relevance of time with your rudiments. Okay, all right. Yep, the great Alex McCormick explained it. Play the full value of the note, and that implies the value of the note has got linked to it tempo. So if you play the full value of the note, you can't go wrong. Okay, so ultimately, once you've done all of that work, you've got all the rudiments being played in a relaxed manner at any required tempo. Okay, and that's it. So I think we're going to need to wrap. So very quickly, we've covered beat subdivision, the 7 simple time beat subdivisions, simple time march, round and pointed. Why and how to get the rudiments independent of time, to unlock our rudiments, to give a full range of expression, to be able to play all rudiments in a relaxed manner at any required tempo. Okay, and yep.